My name is Susie Pappas, and today is October 16th, 2025. I am interviewing past President Sherrie Singer in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan. This interview is being recorded as part of Women in Leadership Oral History Project. Do you give permission to the Leonard N. Simons Jewish Community Archives to publish, duplicate, or otherwise use this recording for educational purposes and for use as deemed appropriate by the archives?
Yes.
Very good, Sherrie. When and where were you born?
I was born in 1972 in Chicago, Illinois.
And tell me about your parents and your siblings.
I have my parents are Renee and Bernie Oppenheim, who now reside in Chicago. And I have three brothers, Steve, David, and Dan.
And where do you fall in that
I'm
mix?
third. So I grew up the only girl. I was always dressed in pink. And yeah.
Okay. So where did you grow up? And tell me a little bit about your childhood.
So when I was 4 years old, my parents decided to move to Indianapolis. And my father was a physician at IUPUI in Indianapolis. And I was raised as a Hoosier in the Hoosier state. And Indianapolis was a wonderful place to grow up. There's an amazing, small but mighty Jewish community there. And immediately we were embraced into the Jewish community.
So how was religion observed in your home?
So when I was very young, I grew up in a conservative shul. And then my parents decided to move over to the Reform congregation, Indianapolis Hebrew congregation. And it's there I was in fourth grade when we moved to the Reform. And I really did thrive as a Reform Jew.
So, how was religion observed in your home?
My parents were pretty traditional. We kept a kosher home, and that was really to keep in the traditions of all of the generations before us. It was so important for my parents to keep that tradition alive. We had a sukkah every year. We, celebrated so many of the holidays, and it was just a really special family to grow up in. And we always celebrated Shabbat every Friday night. And even to this day, my family celebrates Shabbat through Zoom. We call it Zoom Shabbat. So I don't know if you know that, Susie.
No,
It
that's
started in the pandemic. And in March of 2020, we decided let's go online and see each other's faces and do the brachot together. And it's the highlight of my parents' week every single week. So we all log on and we do Zoom Shabbat together.
that's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's really nice. So, tell me about the schools, your elementary or high school, college, a little of your educational background.
I went to public schools. I went to Greenbrier Elementary, and then I went to West Lane Middle School, and then I went to North Central High School, which was a very large high school. There was 4,000 kids at this high school, so it was a mega school. So in my class, there was about 1,000 kids, and I really enjoyed it because it offered so many great opportunities, and it was very diverse. There was people from all walks of life, and I really cherished a public education.
So, were there many Jewish kids in Indianapolis in your class?
So there was about 10,000 Jews in Indianapolis, and we all sort of reside in the same area, Northwest Indianapolis. And most of the Jewish people in the community did go to this, public high school. So, and then I went on to Indiana University.
So, while you were in high school, were you involved in youth group activities? Was there like a Nifty program or anything like
Yes.
that?
So in middle school, I was involved in the junior youth group. It was called JIFTY. And it was called JIFTY because it was Junior Indianapolis Federation of Temple Youth. And there I really kind of started drinking the Kool-Aid and getting more involved. And then in high school, I became the social action vice president. And then as a junior, I became the president of the local youth group. And then as a senior in high school, I was president of the 5-state region called OFTY. It was the Ohio Valley Federation of Temple Youth.
Well, you certainly
This experience really springboarded my leadership experience, and it gave me so many invaluable opportunities to speak in front of large groups. It gave me so much confidence. It was a really invaluable experience being involved with Temple Youth Group.
And that was in high school.
That was my senior year of high school.
So
Yes.
then when you go to college, what activities did you do when you were in college?
So in college, I was involved with my sorority, Alpha Epsilon Phi. I was also involved with UJA, which is the same thing as Federation. We would go from fraternity to sororities to all different groups and solicit them in their board meetings, their chapter meetings for, to give money to the campaign. That was really my first taste of solicitation was in college. I was involved with the Hillel. I was involved with some other types of, other recreational kinds of groups too.
Well, I know there's something else we need to talk about that was
Yeah.
very important to you.
Yeah.
Do you want to talk about your summer experiences?
Sure. So I went to a camp called Goldman Union Camp, and it's part of the URJ, the part of the reform movement. And I started going there at about 14 years old, and it was really an amazing experience. I really feel that going into camp really solidified my Jewish identity. It made being Jewish feel very cool. And it was just such a wonderful feeling to be surrounded by so many other Jewish people. And as a young counselor at age 18, the summer before I went to Indiana University, I met a new song leader that came from Detroit, Michigan. And my joke is that you always fall for the guy with the guitar. So there I met Sherrie Singer, and he was from Detroit. He went to Michigan State. I went to Indiana University, and we continued to date for 6 years long distance. And then we got married.
Wow, that's amazing. So, how did you get involved with the Jewish Federation? What were your
Here.
first steps to that involvement?
So when I moved here, I always say that the Detroit Federation really, or the Detroit community, I should say, really embraced me like a big hug. Immediately, I got involved with Hadassah. That was the first thing I did. And I got involved with our Temple Israel. And I would say as a young mom is when I really started getting involved with Federation. The very first event that I was asked to be a committee member of was an event at Todd's Room that Barbie Zaltz was chairing, and she asked me to be a part of it.
So, who were some of the leaders when you first became involved with women's philanthropy?
Well, Susie, I think you were one of the leaders. I think you were a president at the time when I was doing community
Right,
connections.
right.
I remember Roz Blank. I remember Marcy Orley, Lisa Lease. I don't want to start naming them because I probably will forget, which ones, but there have been so many leaders that within women's philanthropy that were so impressionable to me and really served as a role model.
So, who were some of the ones that you felt actually were mentors to you?
So at the time before I became campaign chair, I would say that Leah Troche really took me, you know, by the hand. I served as many different co-chairs of different things. I was also a vice president. And so I really became friendly with Leah, also Sue Kaufman, also Roz. And it wasn't really until I became an associate campaign chair and campaign chair that really became close to you, Susie. And you became such an amazing mentor to me.
Thank you, Sherrie. So, before we get into women's philanthropy, can you talk about some of the things you did? I know you talked about Hadassah, but I think there are some other things that you did. Do you want to tell us about that?
Sure. Well, while being in Detroit, I've been involved with so many things. And one particular experience that I'm very proud of was that I'm a co-founder of Thread. Thread is an organization that we created to connect Jewish women of all different denominations. And we created it to inspire, empower, and educate Jewish women in our community. And the very first event that we did was back in 2016. We took 46 women to Cincinnati, Ohio on a bus for the weekend. And it was really to discover our Jewish roots, to really learn about the American Jewish experience. So we really jump-started this organization. We did it for many, many years. It's still around, but I think that through COVID and become president of Women's Philanthropy, we had less time to dedicate to it, but it's still there. That was one thing. I'm also on the board of many different things. I'm on the board of Hebrew Union College, which I feel so strongly about, that it's so important to educate the future leaders of our Jewish world. I'm involved with different camp boards, Tamarack, and my what I mentioned before, Gucci, which I hold so near and dear to my heart.
That's great. So, what did your family and your husband think about your involvement, and were they involved in any activities?
So I would say that when I became, associate campaign chair, I was about 46 years old. So I was still raising my kids and, they were getting off to go to college. But that's what they knew. They always knew that I was involved and that during the day I would go to meetings and at night I would go to certain events, and they just knew that this was so important to me. My mantra was always that I want to save the Jews. And so they know that. And so they are very, very supportive of me always, my kids and my husband. And my kids have been involved with their own Jewish activities too. It's so important that we've immersed them into Jewish camping, Jewish involvement, Jewish youth group. And my husband as well, Danny, is very involved with the Jewish community.
Right. What is he currently doing? I know he's doing a few things.
Yeah, right now he's on the board of JFS. He's on the board of Temple Israel. He's just been doing so much for so many years.
And Temple Israel has been a really important part of your life.
It has. I mean, my in-laws have been members there for many, many decades. So when I moved here, it was very natural. Also, the rabbi, Josh Bennett, who is at Temple Israel, was our friend from camp. So there was definitely a special commonality to join Temple Israel when we got married because, we have this history.
So, what kind of led you on the track to become president at Women's Philanthropy?
I think really what led me on the track was my passion for this Jewish community. I always just wanted to do good and help our community. And Women's Philanthropy gave me that opportunity. Really, whenever they asked me to do something, whenever they asked me to be on committee, whenever they asked me to chair anything or be a vice president, I just said yes. It didn't really matter what it was. I just automatically said yes because I knew it was going to be a worthwhile experience.
Did you imagine that you would become president of Women's Philanthropy? Was that
I
sort of in the back of your mind, or?
I think I knew early on that Women's Philanthropy was an organization that I could thrive in and that I enjoy leadership roles. But I do feel that I was a little bit surprised about the timing because I said I was about 46 years old when I got that call. And so I was so elated, but a little bit surprised because I felt like I was definitely on the younger end of the spectrum for that role.
Okay, so when did you, do you remember the year that you did, and tell us a little bit how it started off?
So I became associate campaign chair, I think at 2018, and then at 2019, and then 2020 is when I became the campaign chair. The reason I remember that so vividly is because we were in the beginnings months of the pandemic. We were in quarantine. So I was installed as our campaign chair via Zoom.
Wow.
And it was really an interesting experience. So I started this whole leadership track, in the pandemic. And I ended, and I'm sure we'll get to that, during the Israel war.
Yeah, so there's lots to cover here. Being a pandemic campaign chair definitely had its challenges, which I want you to talk about. But also, when you started um, your route to presidency, did you have certain personal goals that you wanted to accomplish?
Yes. Well, as I did when I was campaign chair, one of my very specific goals was to create a program called Inspire. And Inspire was a leadership program to help people with campaign. It was a campaign leadership experience. And so we were able to cultivate Inspire during the pandemic on Zoom. And then eventually we had 20 women that we did a whole series of lectures and a whole series of different leadership opportunities and trainings. And we ended up going to New York City for a weekend, which was amazing. It's the
So
culmination.
interesting to reflect the differences between being the campaign chair and then being the president. Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Well, as the campaign chair, the motivation is the campaign and to raise as many dollars as you possibly can. And we were able to do that. We achieved it. We surpassed our goal every single year. And it was a little bit of a different experience because it was the pandemic. I mean, imagine we were always wearing masks when we were finally together. And I would say when the quarantine lifted and we were able to be together, there were so many rules. It was still very tricky. We had so many events, but they were always had to be in the open air outside. And people just really wanted to engage. People missed the personal contact with each other. So in that regard, early on in my leadership as a campaign chair, we really did such an exceptional job engaging women. And that was really a challenge, and yet I think we surpassed it amazingly. Then as president, I had other goals. Some of my major goals as president were to help women with their leadership development. I thought that was so important that we train future leaders on how to be amazing leaders. That was really important. We also felt like it was very important to think out of the box and to have really creative programming. So in my 2 years as president, we did some amazing, different types of programs.
What are some of the ones that stand out to you?
Well, we created a group called Up Next, which was for women that were empty nesters, which was wonderful. It really spoke to a certain segment of our women, and we had wonderful programs with them. We went downtown and we went to museums and we just did wonderful things. We One of the things that we did was we had our amazing signature event, which was really probably one of the highlights of my presidency. We had Deborah Messing come, and that was the beginning of the war.
Tell us what Signature is, because
So, Signature is our big fundraising event for all of our women that give $180 and up to our campaign. And for this particular signature event with Deborah Messing, we had a record number of attendees of over 1,000 women that came. So it was magical. And she really was the voice of the moment because she was so outspoken with what was going on in Israel and with October 7th and everything like that. So, I mean, one of the things that we did was we took 3 planes, our federation took 3 planes to Washington, D.C. for the rally after the October 7th war.
so who are some of the Federation staff the staff that you were close with during your time? Want to talk?
So, sure. So, Jessica Goodwood, amazing associate while did my leadership. And then during the pandemic, we were introduced to Amy Wayne via Zoom. She was hired during the pandemic. It was months before I actually got to meet her in person, but I would see her every week. Lauren Soifer and Amy Nystein, our executive director, who just recently retired, was such a mentor, such a gift. She was a wonderful, wonderful professional. And I feel that I learned so much from her. And I just feel so fortunate that I was able to work side by side with her. Amy really feels that the relationship between the lay leader and the professionals is a partnership, and she always talks about that. And she was truly a partner.
Did you feel like she let you lead, or did she give you? I'm sure she gave you her opinions, but how was her leadership style with yours?
She absolutely let me lead. Her style is that she wants leaders to shine. She's really more in the background and gives you all the information to make sure you have all the tools to be as successful as you can. And that's why she was so wonderful.
So during your campaign time and also president, there was they were trying to go to Israel. Do you want to talk about
Sure.
that?
So, wow. So, our Israel experience was in the making for over 3 years, and it was quite a journey. When we decided to finally roll it out and be ready to, go live with registration for this amazing experience, it sold out in 4 minutes. And we were so elated. We had sold the trip, and then we had a wait list of over 30 women on
And
the wait
when
list.
was that? Do you remember
So that was in 2023. It was in
early in
2020, early in
2023?
2023. Yeah, right before the war. And Susie, you were integral because it was the Pappas Impact Mission. The reason why we originally wanted to call it Impact, because our idea was we wanted to see what women are doing in Israel. What's the impact of women in our homeland? And what happened then was that October 7th happened tragically. And obviously, we were not going to go. Our first date was in November. We were supposed to go in November. We, after that, we had to have 2 more different dates. It kept getting pushed back because of the war, and it just wasn't the right time to go. We ended up with a group that was magnificent, and I know you will agree to that. We had 33 very outstanding women, and a lot of them were so different than the original iteration of the trip. But the word impact, it really resonated differently. It was really how Israel was impacting us. When we went on this trip, we saw everything. We saw the resilience of the Israelis. We saw the joy of the Israelis. We saw the sadness and the depression of the Israelis, especially when we visited the Gaza envelope region. And it was the most wonderful, unique mission. And it was at such a special time. I don't think we ever could recreate that again.
Right, right. Yeah, it was a really amazing, and it still continues. The feelings still continue.
Yeah.
Do you want to show
Yeah,
us?
I just want to point this out since this is for the archives that it was very important for the people in our community and in our country and the Jewish world to have solidarity with the Israelis. And this dog tag here says, "Bring them home now." And I wore this for close to 2 years, and I just took it off on Monday when our last 20 alive hostages were released. So this has really been a very, very miraculous week. And I just feel that it was amazing how our community really came together, and especially our women and women's philanthropy. During this wartime, we have been so unified, and everyone just wants to help out. Everyone want to just do what they could do. And that's why the mission to Israel was so special. And we really needed to go and experience it for ourselves.
So now that you are a past president, how is your life? What are you doing? What's keeping you busy? And and I'm sure you're still involved. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So, first of all, I wasn't ready to give up my presidency. A lot of people know this about me. I loved this role more than any other leadership role of my life. And I've had a lot of leadership roles. And I just felt like it went by so fast. And it was really during the last 6 months of my presidency that I was like kind of freaking out, like saying, what am I going to do next? What am I going to do next? I'm only 52 and I'm just, I have so much more to give. But lo and behold, opportunities did open up, and everyone kept reassuring me that they would. One thing that I really, really wanted to do was be on the steering committee for the partnership region. And luckily was invited to join that committee. And I'm leaving in just a few more days to go to Israel for my first partnership mission, which is really exciting. Another role that I've taken on is National Women's Philanthropy. So I think that will be a very interesting step to see, um, you know, to learn from other women in other
Yeah,
communities.
tell us what that is, National Women's Philanthropy.
National Women's Philanthropy is really women's philanthropy on the national level.
Mhm.
So it's all the different women in different communities, and we get together once a year for like a conference, and then we get together every month for Zoom meetings. We get together for the International Lion of Judah, and it's been a really great experience so far.
And what else is on the horizon for you?
Wow, what else is on the horizon? Lots of things. Like I told you, I'm involved with the camp board, and I'm still involved with HUC board. I just really want to kind of say yes to everything and just really figure out what makes sense for, my next
And you and
chapter.
your husband are sharing something?
Yes, we are. Good memory. My husband Danny and I are leading the King David Society mission to Cuba coming
And what
up.
is the King
That's
David's? What is the
March.
King David Society?
King David is a giving level for Federation. It's households of 25,000 and up.
And you're going to Cuba?
We're going to Cuba. We're so excited, and
When
it's
is
almost
that?
sold out. It's the end of March.
Oh, that's great.
So yeah.
That's great.
Mhm.
So let's talk a little bit about why is women's philanthropy important specifically to you and to the community?
I would say women's philanthropy is important to me because it's my passion. It's my passion to help the Jewish community, and it allows women like me to get involved and have a shared voice and collectively do good and help others in our community, in our country, in our world. And it just gives us so much great access to learn from others, to become educated about Jewish topics. It's so integral for our Jewish community. And it's important for others for the same reason. So they have a place to get involved,
But why
especially
women?
now.
Why women as opposed to couples or just
I think we all know that there's something that's very special when women get together. There's a synergy, there's a powerful energy with women. Not to say that that doesn't happen with when women and men are together in other kind of situations, but women share such a strong voice together and really can get things done. And it's a sisterhood. There's a reason why women want to be with other women in order to achieve certain goals.
so what do you hope to see for the future for women's philanthropy?
Well, when I left Women's Philanthropy as far as being president, we saw a record breaking number of engagement. More women were coming to our programs than ever before. And we created so many new programs for working women, for stay home women, for we had a canasta series that taught over 200 women how to play canasta. And I just want that momentum to continue. And I know it will under future leadership. I know that it will continue. But women's philanthropy has created a very unique space for women in our community, especially now with all of the anti Semitism. During my presidency, since the onset of the war of October 7th, we have seen so much more anti Semitism. I think the number was about 400% increase in anti Semitic acts.
Wow. Well, is there anything else you'd like to add? Tell us about your experiences that you would like to add to this.
I just want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to the Detroit community. I came here as a very young person, age 22, just graduated from Indiana University. I got in my Acura Integra white car, and I left the driveway of my parents' home. And I created this whole life for myself here in Detroit. And our Detroit Jewish community has just given me so many wonderful opportunities and friendships. And I can't be more grateful. I just think that it's just been such a wonderful journey. And I'm excited to see what tomorrow brings for our Jewish community and for my own passions. And I'm so grateful.
Let's talk
So
about why the pandemic made it a unique time to be campaign chair.
So the challenge during the pandemic was to make all women feel connected through their screens. And it was definitely a challenge. What we would do is we would create these like kind of care packages and we would have them delivered to their door. So I remember one signature event, they got a little bottle of champagne and a glass and some goodies to eat and some like masks or like signs to put up because Fran Drescher, the nanny, was our signature, talent that was speaking to us. So it was just a way that we all could feel together. And oftentimes after these events, we would have kind of like the whole Zoom board like show up after, the speeches were over and people could just kind of talk to each other. That was always the best. And hearing all the women like kind of talk to each other and saying how much we miss seeing each other. And it was just a great way to become connected. So we really loved it. But it was a huge challenge, but we made it work. We really did. We had huge numbers. So many people would show up to all these different Zoom events.
I think people found that Zoom was a great way to be at an event where maybe in the past they wouldn't have come because of being out of town or whatever. And here you could be anywhere. I remember being in South Carolina when Monica Lewinsky was speaking.
That's right.
You know?
That's right. So the Monica Lewinsky thing was interesting because for the pre-glow, we all had the opportunity to talk to her or to, meet her. But she was standing like this because it was the pandemic still. So nobody was touching each other. People were in masks. So it was just it's a very different type of event. And we had it at the M1 concourse. And all the garage doors had to be up because you always wanted this airflow during the pandemic. Well, meanwhile, it happened to be a really chilly spring night. People were complaining it was so chilly. So there was always challenges. We were trying to appease everyone. The food that was served was always individual, so you didn't touch anything else. The chairs were always spaced far apart from each other. It was such an interesting time. It
But
really
it didn't
was.
seem to discourage involvement at all.
Like you just said, it really spawned engagement. We had more people involved than ever before. And I think also during my leadership, we had a lot of young women get involved. Really young women started seeing that they had a place in women's philanthropy.
That's an interesting thing because one of the goals that I had when I was president was to bring on more younger people and at the time I did, but it's true that your goals were to bring on more with your Inspire leadership.
Inspire
And we really did get more young women that could find a place for themselves in
Yes.
women's philanthropy.
So when Leah Troche was president, she asked me to co-chair the Young Women's Philanthropy Group. And that
What
was
is
a
that?
brand new group for
Okay.
women that were younger, that were raising, kids that were elementary school age and younger, people like that. Like I think it was age 40 and younger maybe. And we really increased the
What kind
the
of
group.
events did you do for them?
Oh
Do you
my
remember?
gosh, we did so many different kinds of events. I remember there was recently like a hip hop dancing event. There was a lot of cooking events, so many things, so many speakers. And it was just a really great way for women to connect. I said before that the Canasta series really was wonderful. And women of all ages, women almost 90 years old would come to this. And then also very young women in their, late 20s, early 30s were coming to this program. So that was great too. So
Makes sense.
another great memory I have was our signature event with Jennifer Grey from Dirty Dancing. And it was such a spectacular night. Well, unfortunately, the audio went out. So during her remarks, it kept going in and out. And she was a champ. She was a professional. She went through it. But what we were supposed to do was do Q&A with the audience afterwards. And I was going to go up as president and do Q&A. Well, we had no audio. So I basically off the cuff started asking her all kinds of questions. And we learned from one of the questions that I asked was about Israel. This was pre the war, of course. And I said, have you ever been to Israel? And she goes, no, I would really like to go though. And I said, well, we're going. Women's Philanthropy is now planning a trip. Would you like to go? And she said, yes. So lo and behold, we were in contact with her agent. And it didn't work out because she was filming something else. But there was a small chance that Jennifer Grey was going to be on the
yeah.
bus with us.
That would have been fun.
It would have been amazing.
Yeah, we did
Yeah.
have it when the trip ultimately went, which we did this last March.
Yes.
It was just amazing. It was a special moment in time.
It really was. And 24 hours after we left that Gaza envelope, we were in Be'eri. And we were at the Nova site. 24 hours later, the ceasefire lifted
Yeah. We were there.
and the bombs started happening again.
Yeah.
And we're also lucky that out of 33 minutes, we all stayed healthy. When does that happen? When we got home, 7 of us got COVID. I was one of them. But we were all healthy on this mission. So that
That's great.
was very lucky.
Okay, Sherrie, thank you. I think we covered a lot of territory, and it was great to have this conversation.
Thank you, Susie, for this opportunity. And you've been such a wonderful friend and mentor.
And you have been a wonderful friend and compatriot and everything. So I appreciate that.